friends. Okay, so I am going to start the little documentary on the 5G radiation by talking about the effects that I feel from it when I am near the towers, and a little bit of backstory on how I even realized that it was the towers that were making me feel that way. When I lived in the car with my little dog, we lived in a town called Huntington Beach. And when I got there, I noticed that I started to feel a certain way. Like I would have headaches, I would have stomach aches, none of the food would sit right in my system. I'd wake up just as tired as when I went to sleep. I would have muscle aches, and I didn't really think that it was from being in the car because we had been in the car for 6 months before we got there. So it wasn't fatigue. And I didn't realize this, but there is a 5G tower on top of the library in the town. And then the library's parking lot is solar panels. So it's the 5G radiation and then the solar panel radiation. And I was sitting under that. And it was causing me so much pain physically that I ended up going to the doctor, and they run all these blood tests. They said that my iron was a little bit low, but other than that, everything was completely normal. And I started to talk to some other people in the area, and they had similar symptoms. One guy's symptoms were so bad that he would get essential tremors, where he would just, you could honestly, it looked like you could see the radiation or just the signal going through his body, because he had been sitting in a car under those towers for years. And it definitely affects the human system. Now, beyond that, the implications that come from the commercials for Cox Communications with the sheep, that makes me think that there's some sort of attempted mind control going on as well on top of that. My biggest problem, especially today, sitting literally 1 block from one, is that my body aches. And when I explained this to another one of my friends, in Southern California, she said that she knew exactly what I was talking about. She didn't feel it from the towers at all. She didn't feel anything from the towers, but she did feel the same sensations when she got radiation poison from going into a tanning bed when she was younger. So it's definitely something that is normal. And I know there's people who don't like to have their cell phones too close to them, because you can kind of feel the signal sometimes in your hand, like a little pain in your hand or a pain in your head if you hold it too close. And these things are essentially antenna. And they should not be in residential. First of all, they shouldn't be around at all. There's no need for that level of technology. That's the kind of thing that gets this whole civilization shut down by the God, trying to reach that level of technology and hurting people with it. And so it's just something that I want to draw attention to. This is my first little segment. And if you live near one and you experience any of these symptoms and you might not know what they were, it also causes depression. It causes lethargy, brain fog. There's a lot of symptoms that you might think anxiety. They can definitely cause anxiety. And there's a lot of things that people who live near them might be suffering from. Even right now, my sinuses are like swollen, but it's not from the allergies. I can tell that it's coming from like a tension in my head. And that is just from the immense electromagnetic pressure. And there are a lot of people who talk about these all the time, and I think they're called conspiracy theorists or tinfoil people. Sometimes those people are right. A lot of times they are. There is a conspiracy afoot, and they are just giving you their theory on what the conspiracy is. That means there is a conspiracy. Not all the theories are correct, but the conspiracy is a thing. That's let's get that straight first of all. But anyway, I'm going to take you on a little tour of this neighborhood. And I will let you see, I've taken photographs and a little bit of video of how many towers there are. There's too many. And the reason there are so many is because this is an area that is close to nature. If you come out here, you can clear your mind. My head is there's a part of my head that is much clearer out here than it was in the city. And this is what was reminiscent of when I lived in my house. However, whatever I'm getting from being out of the city, those towers are taken away because my head is being compressed by all of this electromagnetic energy. And when you look outside across the street from the tower, there is a giant electrical tower as well. And they line the street on the other side. And those things just ping back and forth off of each other and can cause who knows what to the citizens that are in the footprint of it. And we are going to do a deep dive and make sure that everyone knows about this so that you can contact whoever is putting them up, your local, whoever it is. But things that make the effects of the radiation worse if you live near the towers. Being anywhere near electronics. So that means your television, your cell phone, your refrigerator, anything that is electrical that picks up electrical energy or gives off electrical energy is going to create a static charge in your environment. And it's going to be, I don't even know, quadrupled, more than that, if you live anywhere near these towers. If you happen to be unfortunate enough to live in a triangulation of these towers, I mean, the quality of life is definitely lowered. I know this firsthand because I lived in a place that was like this place that I'm staying right now. And I was sick until I left. When I was in Huntington Beach, I had all of these symptoms. And then if you are following along in the chapter of my book that I write called A Slight Upgrade, that's when we get to leave Huntington Beach and go to Newport Beach. I mentioned this in the passage that I read, that I was trying to get away from the 5G towers. And for 2 years, we were in a different town where there were less towers, and I had none of the symptoms. All of my stomach pain went away, all of my headaches, all of the muscle aches, the lethargy, the brain fog, it all went away. And I ended up back in Huntington Beach before the end of my time on the streets, and they all came back. So I know for a fact where the symptoms are coming from. And the towers, there's too many of them. And there happen to be, I'll show you two. There are two. There's a big one and a little one in this neighborhood. There shouldn't even be one. There definitely shouldn't be two together like that. And we are going to get to the bottom of this.
All right. So this is going to be segment 2 of the documentary, where I am going to take you on a little tour of the neighborhood and then a tour of the area where I basically I went to go get my mail. And I decided to film the 5G towers along the way. I happened to see one on top of a fertility clinic, which I will show you. There was one across the street from a hospital. And there was another one on top of a Hebrew preschool. And I want to also show you the electrical grid that is right next to 2 towers. So there's an electrical grid, a tower, and then another tower that is on top of a preschool. And this is all within 500 feet of this school. And it is within 1.5 mile of a park. So the problem comes when this level of electromagnetic energy is forced upon a human system. In the case of the people who work and live in this area, 24 hours a day. If you go to school there, it's the entire time you're at school. If you live in the area, which there are thousands of houses, hundreds, dozens right in the footprint of these things. And I really, really would love to talk to the people that live in this area because I know they're experiencing symptoms because I have. Now, not all people experience symptoms from this radiation poisoning. However, the effects of it are still present in the body. And I know that the people who put these things up are well aware of that. And that is where the bigger problem it lies. And then, like I mentioned before, when you put together all of this with the commercials that are suggesting that this sort of technology can also affect your brainwaves, it's a real big problem that I think we as a people need to address. Because there's no need. I have a worse cell phone signal by the towers than I had when I wasn't by the towers. And the last house that I stayed at was also by a tower. And for some reason, I didn't feel the effects as much because it was just one and it wasn't that big. But out here next to the mountains, I'll show you again, they have multiple. And on this street, Hualapai, in a 5-mile radius, there are at least 10. And that's way too many. And they put them there because of the mountains, because of the freedom of thought that is available near. Because of the freedom of thought that is available out in nature. And it is a problem because they also put it in cities. They put them everywhere, but they're definitely lining the outskirts of the city. Hualapai is the last street before you reach the mountains, or you reach residential area that is blocking the mountains. And so there is a power grid and a 5G grid surrounding the city, blocking people's frequency to nature. And that is a big problem that is going to end.
About the 5G towers. If you watch my latest vlog, you will know that I am staying in an Airbnb right now in a neighborhood that's kind of at the base of the mountain. And it's very pretty, and it seems like a place where you'd be able to come and clear your head, except for I can't because there are so many 5G towers and electrical wires and an electrical grid that is kind of strangling the area. So Clementine and I set out on a little reconnaissance mission, and we went on a walk, and we ended up on this very beautiful trail that was leading to the mountain. But before we could get to the mountain, we were stopped by a gated community. So there are all these houses in this beautiful community that is blocking access to the mountain. So that means that there is a developer who decided to take what should be every citizen of Las Vegas's backyard, this beautiful mountain landscape, and make it the backyard of only about 20 or 30 people. This is a crime against nature and humanity. It's an offense to God. These people cannot be Native American in spirit. The people who built here and the people who live there are not Native American in spirit, because that is so disrespectful to the land. And the funny thing is, there is a similar thing going on in the other place where there was a ton of 5G towers, Huntington Beach, California. Huntington Beach, literally the beach, across the street from the beach, across the PCH, the Pacific Coast Highway, from the beach, there is an oil refinery that pumps out toxic fumes and pollution onto the beach all day, every single day. And right next to that refinery, literally, are $1 million homes. So there are people who chose to make their homes there. There are people who choose to build their homes on the side of the mountains in the Los Angeles area, and they get flooded. Their houses flood away every single year. Same thing goes on in Florida, where the people cut back the Everglades to build housing developments, and now every time there's a storm surge, it floods the entire panhandle. The Everglades were the buffer from the storm surge. Watching these people do this stuff is like watching the little pigs who have built their house on sand. And a lot of these things is karma. It's just karma. And the crazy thing about the neighborhood where I am is I wouldn't consider it to be too close to the mountain. I feel like you could still have this neighborhood and people could still access the mountain, but people here are paying for being too close to the people who are too close. And it's like you disrespect the land, and the energy of that is going to come back on you. These people are way, way out of line, taking something that should be all of our backyard and making it just theirs. It's completely offensive and it's completely wrong. And keep in mind that the god of this place is the same character who split the languages at the Tower of Babel, completely destroyed the tower and split the languages because he felt like people were gathering together against him to create too much technology. For him, that building was too tall, so tall it offended him so much that he decided to separate people even more by making them speak different languages so that we could not come together to do anything like that again. So what do you think he thinks about somebody who built their house at the base of a mountain and took it as their own backyard when it's everybody's backyard? In this segment, we are going to discuss the implications of the 5G commercials from Cox Communications and other companies where they use sheep to obviously convey some sort of message about 5G. In the Cox Communications commercial, a little sheep goes into a tattoo parlor and gets tattooed. First of all, he goes into a tattoo parlor and the flash art is all butterflies, which is an indication of monarch programming. The monarch butterfly, is the symbol of that programming and has been for a very long time. So the sheep goes into the tattoo parlor. All of the flash art is butterflies, and this sheep chooses a lightning bolt instead and gets a little lightning bolt tattooed on its body and then crosses the country with various different people, grandmas, men, women, children, spreading 5G across the globe. And obviously the implication of the sheep has a potential of mind control. And that's a very interesting thing because I am a person who has been the victim or the subject of potential attempted mind control. And I'm not the only one. My father is a person who was also subjected to a very similar type of hazing at the same time that I was. And I actually did witness a psychotic break from him because of this. And I didn't realize this at the time, but right before I left was when I witnessed the psychotic break. When I came back, I went near around his house and I was met with this and this um, and this. The those towers definitely were not there when they moved into this area. And they are directly across the street from his house. I know that the towers can cause depression, anxiety, irritability, anger, and who knows what can happen if that frequency is tweaked a little bit. That's something that I guess we're going to have to figure out together, but I just thought I would mention that here. So, in conclusion, I would have to say that these 5G towers are definitely completely unnecessary. This level of technology is not even beneficial. They do not improve your cell phone signal anymore. They are definitely detrimental to the human system. They should not be in residential areas. Imagine spending a ton of money putting a down payment on a house, committing to a 30-year mortgage for a six-figure home, and then within a couple of years having a nuclear warhead placed in your backyard or somewhere in the vicinity. And then imagine within the course of a few more years after that, there's 10 or 12. It is a sin. It is a crime against humanity. And it's something that is really out of control, but not so out of control that we can't turn around right now. And I hope that this little documentary has drawn some attention to the issue. If you're living near any of these towers and suffer from any of these symptoms, now you know why. And if you are, I would suggest that you call your local senator, your local governor, your local whoever it is, and see that they work on getting those taken down, because the phones don't need to be that smart. You don't need a phone any smarter than your average person, and most people are not that intelligent these days. So in conclusion, the 5G towers are very bad. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, and know what's going on in your surroundings. All right, love you.